Steam, test, test, test. So a question came to me this morning, and I dropped it into Intelligent Network, per se. So, if Kamala Harris had been elected, response. If Kamala Harris had won the 2024 election, her presidency likely would have been characterized by a blend of continuity from the Biden administration and a pivot toward what she called opportunity economy. Since she would have been the first woman and person of South Asian descent to hold the office, the social and symbolic impact would have been historic, though she would have faced a deeply polarized Congress. For we who didn't really know what polarized means to divide something, usually people, opinions, or groups, into two opposite sides, where the sides move further apart and agree less. So much for that part. Pretty much like that right now, and at its worst. Economic and domestic policy. Her platform focused heavily on middle out and bottom up economic growth. Key initiatives would have included the opportunity economy, a push for federal bans on corporate price gouging, for groceries and expanded tax credits, including a $6,000 newborn credit, and restoring the $3,600 child tax credit. Housing. They plan to build 3 million new homes and provide $25,000 in down payments assistance for first-time home buyers. Reproductive rights. She made reproductive freedom a cornerstone of her campaign, pledging to sign federal legislation to codify abortion rights if passed by Congress. That would have been a fight. Now I want you to know I'm not reading this against her. I'm damn sure for the policies. Taxation. She proposed raising the corporate tax rate to 28% and increasing taxes on individuals earning over $400,000 while maintaining the Biden pledge not to raise taxes on anyone below that threshold. Foreign policy and global standing. Harris was expected to maintain a multilateral approach, emphasizing alliances like NATO. Alliances. Continued robust support for Ukraine, and a focus on de-risking rather than decoupling from China. Middle East, while maintaining military aid to Israel. Again, while maintaining military aid to Israel, she likely would have increased pressure for a two-state solution and more aggressive humanitarian intervention in Gaza. Receipts right here, y'all. Y'all can cut my voice off and shut me down and read it yourself. And I'm scrolling up manually. Climate change. A steady continuation of the transition to green energy, though she famously shifted her stance to support fracking during the campaign to appeal to energy-producing states. Appeal. I'm down for green energy. I came up with, oil. I came up with oil refineries, but I'm down for whatever is good for society, whatever they're satisfied with, and cleaner energy is always better. Non-quote. Potential cabinet and leadership. Speculations on her administration often include continuity. Key Biden figures like Gina Raimondo of the Commerce or Wally Adeyemo, I guess that's how that's pronounced, Treasury, were often floated for major roles. New faces like Senator Cory Booker or former Obama official Sally Yates were discussed as potential Attorney General picks to lead her Justice Department. In this case, that's another question I had. In this case, how would Kamala Harris cause polarization had she won the seat? If Kamala Harris had won the presidency or another high-profile seat, that outcome would have intensified polarization. And you can fathom the ways and the means and the reasons, unquote. Not just because of who she is, for a few key reasons tied to how U.S. politics currently work. Excuse my slurring, my tied tongue, okay? Receipts right here. Read it for yourself. 1. Existing political polarization. The U.S. is already deeply divided along ideological lines. Democrats and Republicans disagree strongly on values. That's the Republican side, unquote, pretty much. Because you got the Republicans, you got the MAGA, you got racists, you got biasness. And that's a conflict in itself against what's good for the people. And I guess you'd say what's good for the people, let alone democracy. And even basic facts about elections and governance. This divide was a major theme in recent politics and campaigns. A Harris victory wouldn't create that vision from scratch, but it could highlight and sharpen those fault lines more than today's situation. And as I read before, it would cause like we're coming up on now, it would still cause a big problem in the economy because of the Republican disagreements more than anything else. Because as we can see, Kamala, she was more so bent toward doing things for the people. More so. But then you got the Republican, quote, alpha males, actually beta males, that would disagree with her. And damn, who do we have? Kristi Noem? Oh my God. 2, her identity and historic nature. Harris would likely have been the first woman and a woman of color elected president. Historic milestones that energize many supporters, but also trigger backlash from some opponents, many opponents. In a highly polarized environment, that identity factor can become a focal point in cultural debates, increasing emotional intensity on both sides. The line is blurred there when they say, or blurred there when they say both sides. You have to look at it this. The Republicans would be in total opposition, which would cause conflict between both parties. Unquote. 3, strong partisan narratives. During the 2024 campaign, political discourse often used very strong language. For example, opponents labeling each other in extreme terms. Okay? which is a key indicator of polarization. In that climate, a Harris win could enforce opposing narratives, like she'll radically change the country. Now, that's coming from the MAGA and a lot of Republicans. Not all, but a lot of Republicans. They're not going to tell you anything about the Republicans that are proponents, okay? Versus she'll preserve democratic norms, pushing people further into camps. MAGA, evangelicals. 4, policy disagreements. If Harris had been president, her policy agenda on issues like immigration reform, health care, or judicial appointments might have strongly contrasted with conservative priorities. Contrast mean disagree, okay? Whole lot of words and thesauruses when they can just be basic. In contrast, not like, disagree, totally different. Okay, that's what that means actually. Opponents could see those actions as threats, not just differences, which often fuse polarization more than the policies themselves. The ignorances of majority MAGA Republicans and some Democrats, because you got turncoats, okay? You got hypocrites. Just as sure as I'm trying to figure out now what in the hell did the Republicans and Democrats go to Israel for. I'll let that alone. Moving on. You can also go to McLean County Republican org, I guess, to get more information. I didn't go there. 5, public perception of willingness to work across the aisle. Polls suggest that many voters do think she could try to work with the other party, but opponents are generally seen as less likely to reciprocate. In other words, the Republicans are so doggone stubborn, MAGA so doggone stubborn, so alpha themed, but yet beta minded. Okay, that they're not going to meet with some of the agreements from the Democratic side. That perception gap itself can sustain polarization because each side believes the other is unreasonable under Pew Research or Research Center. Also have here where, in quotes, like I say in parentheses here, the Republicans plus conflicting MAGA party, unquote. That's what that would be all about right there. In simple terms, a Harris victory might have deepened polarization in the short term, not because of something unique she did, but because it would have intensified existing political conflicts and given both sides strong reasons to frame her leadership as either a best case or worst case scenario. That strong framing and the emotional reaction it drives is what polarization thrives on. Best case or worst case scenario. In the Kamala Harris example, some people would see her winning as a best case progress, stability, representation, etc. Other Republicans-based minds and some corporations would see her winning as a worst case, fear of policies, culture change, party power, etc. In other words, like I say, they're going to see things pretty much the way they're going to see it. They're going to be in opposition. And that split perception is a big part of what creates polarization. Once again, if my reading is not good enough for you, turn your volume off and read it, because I scrolled it up slow enough for you to read, so that you understand, because not everybody understands politics. That's the reason why some people did vote, didn't vote for her, for another party, because they don't understand the platform. They don't understand the measures that she wanted to take, versus the Republicans already raising a lot of hell and doing a lot that they possibly can to throw people off. So when it comes to propaganda, mental manipulation, we have to read for ourselves and read between the lines. So here we go. With the Republican administration, Donald Trump, wanting to actually do away with voting, we get that chance to vote. We have to stand up and we have to do things outside of voting before we even get to the elections. Okay? We have to start thinking. We have to do a little research. So that we know the agenda of each party. And for the most part, as you can see it's just up in the air. MAGA and the majority of Republicans want to take control of America, period. If I can put it that way. Just basic. You can see it. So with me, it's reading about the political agendas, but at the same time, understanding for myself, not so much the politics, but good versus bad. Peace.